Location, location, location. You've probably heard this phrase before as the time-honored slogan of real estate agents everywhere. Hello, would you like to buy this house? Wonderful, it's only $5 gazillion. Okay, so higher education may not be quite as expensive as that palatial mansion, but it is a big commitment. And location definitely matters when making a decision. Location can change the financial, emotional, and experiential factors of your collegiate journey. So, let's take a look. The primary locations for universities are in-state, out-of-state, and international. In-state refers to schools in the same state that you and/or whoever is financially backing you, i.e. your parents, are residents of. Out-of-state simply means schools that are not in the same state. International schools would be those in countries outside of the United States, like all of these. G'day, mate. Top of the morning to you lads and lassies. Buenos dias, ¿cómo estás? But before you start feeling overwhelmed, why don't we start a little closer to home with in-state schools? Because in-state refers to colleges in the state you and your parents live in, they can be both public and private universities. And just like our last few lessons on public and private colleges, we are going to check out the pros and cons of each of our options, starting with pros for in-state colleges, which can basically be summarized with two phrases: less money and more familiarity. Let's start with less money. In-state colleges will probably be your most affordable option, especially if it's a public university. As you probably recall from Lesson 3, Selecting State Universities, because they are funded by the state or federal government, public universities have more funds to lower the cost of tuition. In-state public university students usually get offered a lower tuition rate since they live in the state that provided the funding. Now, private universities typically charge only one tuition rate to both in-state and out-of-state students. However, the tuition can still end up being cheaper for in-state students because they can qualify for other in-state funded scholarships and grants. The in-state university price tag is also lowered when you consider the cost of travel. Most likely, in-state universities will be closer to your home. You won't have to drive or fly as far to get to school after holidays. If you're close enough, you could commute from home and save even more money. You might be able to carpool with other locals. Go green! So now the second part of the pro, more familiarity. Attending a school in-state means that you are more likely to be familiar with the weather, environment, shopping options, local cuisine, and more. And who could be more familiar than your family? Sometimes they can be a little too familiar, but we love them anyway. Being in-state will make it easier for you to make visits home and for them to drop by and see you. Of course, that might end up being a con. And speaking of cons, there are a few more to attending in-state colleges. They can be summed up as limits and lack. Ugh, two of my least favorite words. I guess we'll start with limits. If you're looking for only in-state public universities, your choices will be limited. Some states, like California or New York, have a wider selection of public university systems. However, other states may not have as many options. You may also be limited to your local setting, whether urban, rural, or suburban, which leads to lack. Staying in-state means that there can be a lack of new experiences. You can be stuck in the same environment, at the same places, with the same people. And if you're an excited explorer or avid adventurer like me, that can definitely be a huge con. And speaking of cons, staying in-state means that there could be a lack of options when it comes to degree plans. If you're looking to get a specific degree, like aerospace engineering or zoology or oceanography, you might not be able to find it in-state. So you may be stuck doing something really boring that just makes you want to... Oh, sorry about that. I think I need a change of pace to wake me up. Let's switch over to a little farther away with Out-of-State Colleges. Yay! We're hitting the road again. And we're starting in our favorite town, Pro-Principality. And inside Pro-Principality, we've got brand new Boulevard and Career Courtyard. So let's get started on our tour. The brand new Boulevard of Out-of-State Universities provides a shopping mall of experiences, friends, and independence. Moving away from your state means that you can be exposed to new experiences in the environments and locales. Maybe you'll be closer to a national park, or a beach, or a historic monument. Perhaps you'll be able to spend your weekends seeing a show on Broadway, or looking through art at a museum, or rock climbing in the mountains. And you can do all of these activities with new friends. Out-of-state schools means you'll meet a diverse range of people with different backgrounds. Sometimes you end up learning just as much from them as you do from school. And the farther away from home you are, the more independence you'll have. Not having your parents nearby means you have to rely on yourself. So, don't forget to update your calendar and set your alarm. Oh, and speaking of that, that's my alert to move this tour along. This is Career Courtyard. Out-of-state schools can provide you more career opportunities, especially if you're from a smaller area. Going to school in a larger city can help you make business connections that you might not be able to form in a rural area. And because this tour is in a big city, there's a lot more stops, so let's keep walking. Unfortunately, we have to head to the not-so-nice parts of town now. Price Pavilion and Homesick House. In Price Pavilion, we have to reckon with the fact that out-of-state schools will probably be more expensive. Even at public universities, the out-of-state tuition can be high. There will also be no state scholarships or grants since you won't be in the state you are a resident of. In larger cities like Chicago, New York City, San Diego, Los Angeles, and more, the housing and cost of living can be astronomical. You also have to consider paying transportation costs to get there and while you are there. Are you going to pay for flights every Thanksgiving, Christmas, spring break, and summer holiday? How will you transport all of your necessary items? Will you need a car, or can you use public transport in the city, like buses, subways, or trains? Maybe you'll be close enough to bike or even walk. Get those steps in. And let's speed walk all the way to Homesick House. I think you can guess this con. When you're at an out-of-state college, you can get homesick at times, especially if it's your first time to be far away from your family, friends, and home. And speaking of being far away from home, let's travel even farther to examine international schools. And we'll travel by steady ships and culture cars. Bon voyage! Now, one of the most amazing parts of international universities is that you get to study in the actual country that you're studying. So, you can learn about the War of the Roses while sitting in an English rose garden. Or study the French Revolution in Paris, liberty, equality, fraternity. Or explore ancient Greek mythology in Greece. Depending on your degree, international schools can provide some of the best education. For instance, one of my very good friends is getting her degree from a top-ranked business school in Paris. During her university years, she has studied and interned in various locations in Spain, Italy, England, South Africa, Ireland, Thailand, and more. What better place to learn international business than internationally? And now that we've landed, let's disembark from the study ship and get into Culture Car. Going to international schools gives you a chance to explore different cultures and embrace a diversity of people and places. Living in a different country for a number of years lets you really experience another side of the world. And if you're overseas, you might as well pop by and see a few other nearby places, right? Of course, we might have to travel by a few less luxurious means. So let's look at price ponies and career camels. And yes, I am aware that both of those sound super cute and fun, but they're not exactly as sweet as they seem. So let's take a look. The price of international universities can be enormous. There are countries like Germany where university education is practically free, even for medicine and even for foreigners. The only caveat in Germany, you need to be a proficient German speaker or take classes in Germany as preparation for your studies. But it could be well worth putting in the hard work of learning German. However, even if you go to an international school that is lower cost or free, it comes with a cost of housing, transportation, and living expenses. Plus, there are some countries and colleges that do not offer financial aid. And it's easy to lose sight of this when amazing schools are giving you offers. Believe me, when I was looking at MFA programs, I was definitely swayed by a few schools from the UK. I mean, I could be in a class that is taught by Colin Firth's brother. Hello, Mr. Darcy's brother. And then I found out that it would be about $40,000 per year for 3 years. And it was in London, so the price of living would be extraordinarily high. So sorry, Mr. Darcy, but I'm afraid that I will not be attending the Netherfield Ball. So let's take off those fancy dresses and get on to the career camels. While it's not a job guarantee, attending a university can help you make connections to gain employment after graduation. When you're at an international school, those connections will probably be in whatever country you're studying in. However, it's not as easy as just taking a job. When you work in a different country, you have to get work permits, visas, and all the other fun paperwork. Depending on the country, you might also have to deal with a language barrier. All right, now that we've looked at in-state, out-of-state, and international schools, how do you pick the best option? Well, you need to weigh the pros and cons for you. Yours might be different than mine. I chose not to attend the UK college because the con of the cost was too great for me. However, my good friend did decide to attend her French university because the pro of education location was worth it. So, sort through your own scale of preferences, priorities, and price point using the activities and thought-provoking questions and the supplemental PDF for this lesson. Search for substance over style. Look for quality of education, opportunities, and affordability. And speaking of affordability, you might have noticed that we haven't talked about one type of college yet. Probably the most affordable option. Well, don't worry. We'll be looking into community colleges next time. Until then, keep constructing your college castle in the sky. Hey.